Hello, everyone. Welcome to this bonus episode of Svelte Radio. We're going to have a listen to the Q&A session that took place yesterday at the Svelte Summit. Enjoy.
Radio.
Hey,
Hey,
hey, gang.
Welcome to the summit.
Thank you, and congratulations. It's been a terrific day.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
good wins.
Yeah, that talk was great.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right. So, does anyone have any questions for Rich? I have one.
This is in Discord, everybody. We might
I should
want YouTube
have
as
that
well.
open in a separate window.
Yeah, that was good.
I can help keep track too.
Cool. Let's check. I don't know if you caught the puppets, Rich.
I did, yeah. I missed a bit of the middle of the conference, and I'm going to have to catch up later. But I I saw that. It made me
They seem
chuckle.
to have struck a chord.
Yeah.
Been posting puppets all day in the Discord. It's great. There should be a custom emoji for a puppet, for the snake puppet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Still alive.
nice. All right. Let's see here.
So when do you think SvelteKit 1 is going to be released?
Oh, man.
Going straight for the.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Jugular time.
I mean, if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said April 25th for sure. Like, what could possibly go wrong? But it turns out it's just like really hard. There's a lot of work that is involved in building a thing like this, and work being work and life being life, stuff sort of gets in the way. But like the fact that there is so much to do, I think is kind of the reason that something like SvelteKit is so valuable, right? Because all the things that we're putting into the framework is stuff that you would have otherwise had to figure out in your apps. And like the hope, the idea is that as you're using it, you're not even really aware of all the stuff that it's doing for you. It's like, they say that the best visual effects in movies are the ones that you're not even aware you're seeing, like, because they don't take you out of the story. You're not like thinking, oh, that was maybe the computer. It's just like seamless. The idea is that when you're using SvelteKit, it'll be so seamless. Like all of the design decisions that have been taken, hopefully are going to be the sort of obvious in retrospect, it couldn't have been any other way thing. Well, actually, they're the result of like fierce discussion and experimentation among the core team and people who are currently trying the beta version to get us to that point. And all I can say is, bear with us, please.
And if you have strong opinions, go and share them on GitHub issues, right?
Absolutely,
yeah.
and there's been a ton of really great feedback on GitHub already. Like I remember when we first opened up the repo, because we were developing it behind closed doors for a little while, because when something is very kind of still up in the air and you're not sure what shape it's going to take, it's much easier if you can do that without prying eyes. And we did that for a while. But the thing about private repos on GitHub is, unless you're paying for them, you only get a certain number of minutes each month to run your actions. And we like making heavy use of CI to do our tests and everything. And we keep running out of our minutes on like the fourth day. So eventually, like having turned off the Windows test runners and the Mac OS test runners, eventually we're like, this doesn't work anymore. We're just going to have to open the repo, thinking that we could sort of do it on the sly and would have a little bit longer before people started to notice. Within 25 minutes, there was a post on the Svelte Reddit, on the subreddit, saying,
They're fast.
come on in, guys.
I
And
saw-
it was the whole secret, the secret, what do they call it? The docs, the unofficial docs appeared.
Yeah.
By McGregor.
Yeah, which are absolutely terrific. I mean, Greg has got a real flair for writing documentation.
Yes.
Definitely.
And like he's now on the core team, so
He's now one of us.
he is
One
one of us. One of us. Yeah.
I saw a So there was a funny comment left somewhere on some issue or some PR about letting in the barbarians.
Right.
That was funny.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some questions here.
I'm seeing quite a bit of conversation about why hooks.
Look, just because React decided to take that word and use it for in some strange way doesn't mean that like we shouldn't, like the rest of the programming community shouldn't be able to use it the way that it was intended. Like a hook. This is what a hook is. It's a way of hooking into a life cycle or a program, the execution flow, and like get context and get session and handle. Like these are hooks. They're not React hooks, but I feel like that we should refer to hooks in React as React hooks, like maybe with a little TM symbol afterwards, because they're the ones who chose to take the word and ruin it.
Yeah. All right. So one question here that popped up is it's prompted by the Snape puppet. What Hogwarts house would you be? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, someone's going to have to tell me, because I'm not a Harry Potter person. Which is the good one?
You can actually take an
which is the
online
best
test
house?
which will tell you which one you're in, and it's written by JK herself. Well, it's the one on the Pottermore site is by JK herself, and I know because I wrote it. So basically, what it is she wrote a spreadsheet of all the answers and stuff. When you fill that in, it goes through all the columns and goes that one. So that's the official answer. This is what we're doing.
Did you actually work on that?
I actually wrote it. Yeah, I actually wrote
That's
it.
hilarious.
So what you're telling me, Anthony, is you created the sorting hat.
Not quite. No, the whole back stuff is all JK.
Sure.
All right. So can we expect more adapters? People are asking about AWS Amplify. I saw
Definitely. Yeah. So we started with adapters that like we already know people use platforms like Vercel and Netlify a lot, and they were just like easy targets to begin with. Cloudflare Workers is one that we're particularly excited about. Begin/Arc is one that we've made a start on, but there's a little bit more to do there. But all of these things are sort of Lambda-ish or Lambda adjacent, and so Lambda is certainly going to be well supported. We're very excited about Cloudflare Workers, not least because a core team member is now a developer advocate at Cloudflare, Luke. Yeah. So it's always nice if you know that if you need to kick up a fuss about something, why isn't this working? Then we've got a direct.
Yeah. I was actually, I almost like messaged him today to complain about some login issue on Cloudflare, but then I decided maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, the poor bloke doesn't know what he's got in store. We're going to abuse that connection.
Yeah, he was basically a developer advocate for Cloudflare though before this.
Yeah,
actually,
right.
Super Cloudflare, and that's. I mean, I love Cloudflare too, but I can't find my way around it at all. Like it all goes way over my head. But because Luke is A, very enthusiastic about Cloudflare, B, legitimately a genius, and C, the most generous and kind person any of us know. Like he's sort of brought us all into the Cloudflare fold as well. And a nice thing about having good Cloudflare support is we should be able to support Deno or Deno or however the hell you say it really straightforwardly as well, because I don't know if you've seen the Deno deploy service that's it's in beta at the moment. Deno.com deploy looks really interesting, really exciting. They're basically using the Cloudflare adapter API, but it's their own implementation. They're not just wrapping Cloudflare. They've actually built their own Cloudflare equivalent thing that is powered by Deno, and we should be able to support that really easily, which I'm excited for.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, we're definitely going to have more adapters, but the idea is that the adapter API will allow you to very easily build adapters for any platform in future as well. So we're not going to try and have like a comprehensive set and you have to come to the official Svelte adapter for platform X. Like you can just go away and write your own adapter. That's the plan.
Yeah. So
I think
it's more
one of
like, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the reasons that the Begin and Vercel adapters actually existed is because I believed that it was easy to use that API that Richard built, and it was, because I managed to write his adapters quite quickly. So,
although it's changed a lot since then. So
it has, but it's got simpler if anything, right? It's become a lot simpler. There's no manifests or anything anymore, so it's actually really testament to that a good adapters API. So
yeah. We've got a little bit more work to do on the adapter API, because there's things that we want to maybe implement, like maybe you want to have functions that only handle particular routes so that you've got isolation between those different things. And like stuff like that is going to involve API changes. So that's one of the reasons that we're not at 1.0 yet, is because we need to nail that stuff down.
Yeah, I was going to say like documentation for writing adapters, probably a thing to have.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to do.
And so I noticed during your talk, you hinted a bit at maybe doing that use enhance thing as a built-in feature in SvelteKit.
Yeah, we've got to figure out what that integration looks like. It definitely should be part of SvelteKit, I think, in some form. But at the same time, like you could take that action and you could use it in any Svelte application anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
The tricky part is that if you're submitting a form without JavaScript, then you're going to get a response that is probably not going to be that useful to you if you're doing the same submission with a fetch, right? Because in the example of that to-do app, when you post to todos.json, you don't want to just load the list of to-dos. Like you want to go back to the to-dos page and see the UI that's built on top of that data. So what happens is the endpoint, that todos.json endpoint, it will actually redirect you back to to-dos. But you don't want to do that if you're posting the data via a fetch. You actually want to get the data back. You want to get the new to-do that's just been created in the traditional REST fashion. And if you're going to do that, then you need to be able to differentiate between fetches and non-fetch submissions.
Right.
And so the adapter and the endpoint, they need to be kind of coordinating to some degree. And so like we've got to figure out what level of integration feels right and is going to make this sort of thing turnkey. Because I think it really is important that it's not any extra effort to build forms that work without JavaScript. That it's really easy to build the Node.js version first and then build the enhancement on top. Because right now, what tends to happen, and you see this like when you look at, I read a thing the other day in like, I don't want to call them out, but like the Next.js docs, they have like this thing about using forms in Next, and they describe this best practice, which means breaking the form. Like they've broken the form. It no longer works without JavaScript. And I saw another blog post just yesterday that it was about like adding types to your React form handlers or something. And again, it broke the form, because this is what like culturally we've become accustomed to, is that if you're building something with a JavaScript framework, then you just stop caring about users without JavaScript, which like it's really a marker of privilege. And as a community of web developers, I think we should do better, because this is one of the things that the people that I was talking about who decry modern web development attack us for, and rightly so, is that a lot of this stuff works without JavaScript frameworks, and you have to actively add stuff to break it, and that's kind of what we're doing at the moment, and it's not great. We can do better.
It is a bit weird.
I think also somebody posted that link that you mentioned in a bug report somewhere, where do your users have JavaScript? And I think that's really, really worth reading for everyone if it's not been posted again, just because we can't guarantee that anyone has JavaScript.
Yeah, and it's not people disabling JavaScript. It's people on weird Wi-Fi networks where they manipulate the traffic, or people on the subway and they got the HTML, but they went into the tunnel before they could get the JavaScript.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that happens all the time, and like everyone is a Node.js user some of the time.
Yeah.
Everyone is an Node.js user until JS loads as well. So
Yeah,
I like the example of like us, like Australia or places like with that context, right?
right, yeah,
Like, yeah.
There are people in Australia.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it?
Well, but a global community, right? Like some stuff is handled differently in different areas, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. I've started recently using the Tor browser a bit, and that's one of those use cases where you don't want to use JavaScript, right?
Yeah, you have it turned off, don't you?
Well, yeah, I guess you can turn it on, but
But then there's no point
kind of
using
dangerous.
Tor.
Yeah, exactly.
And people will start finding out about all the shady stuff that Kev's doing.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing that people actually assume, right? Just because you're using a privacy tool, you should be commended for doing that. And everyone should do that by default, I think.
They should.
So
Maybe
it's by quite a few of the questions coming through Discord, Rich. What would it take to get people on Svelte full time? I mean, is there a way people can start donate, or how much does it take? And basically, people are curious about how you're managing to do so much as well as have a full-time job. And I think there's a lot of excitement to get Svelte moving faster and faster and faster.
I mean, the pandemic's been great because like none of us have a social life anymore, and that's very beneficial for open source. I'm really humbled by the fact that people are that invested in the framework, that people are talking about like what it would take financially. For me, it's not really about money. Like I really like my job. My day job is fun, and I wouldn't want to like not have that. I also think it's really important that the people who work on a framework have jobs that are not just about that framework. Like the fact that Anthony is like building stuff at a startup means that we get to see what the requirements of building stuff at a startup are. The stuff that I do at the New York Times, we have very esoteric requirements, and that kind of makes its way back into the framework. And like all of that diversity of experience is very beneficial when it comes to figuring out what stuff to prioritize and like all of that. So I don't think it would necessarily be in the framework's best interests for that not to be the case. Having said that, like I totally take the point about development velocity. We have an open collective, and people do support us through that. And so far, we haven't really found a ton of ways to spend that money. But we are like actively thinking about like how we can use that to triage our issue list and maybe put bounties on some stuff. And I guess all I can say is that we're thinking about this stuff too, and like we want the development velocity to be as fast as possible, but we also don't want Svelte to become like some VC funded like faux SS. Did I just coin that? Faux SS?
Yeah, I think you did.
Oh, I like that. That could catch on. It feels like there's more and more of that these days. Like there's a lot of people working on open source software, and then like you discover that there's a business model behind it. And I'm always a little bit skeptical about like whether or not that is ultimately in the best interests of the software itself. And I don't want Svelte to become a thing that is run in the interests of the people building it. I want it to be a thing that is run in the interests of the community at large.
It's nice.
Cool.
All right, so some questions here. What's your opinion on stuff like Svelte Node GUI and Svelte Native? Is that fun to see?
It's fascinating to see. It's so much ingenuity in getting something to work that way, because like we didn't design Svelte with those use cases in mind, and yet here we are. Like apparently it works. I haven't used Node GUI yet. I've dabbled with Svelte Native, and it's terrific. But I haven't used Node GUI. I'm excited to give it a shout. Not just because of the Severus Snape sock puppet, just because Like it looks really fun. And maybe there are ways that Svelte can make it easier to build those sorts of integrations. I'm all for it.
Okay. Nice. Right. Do we have any other questions, or should we?
So I think one that's come up a few times actually is what are the thoughts on incremental static regeneration?
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure what the value proposition of incremental static regeneration is. Like, what's wrong with cache headers? Can someone just explain, like M5, why you wouldn't just serve content dynamically but with a cache header? And as long as a cache header includes the word public, then it'll be cached at the CDN layer. And like, isn't that kind of the same thing?
Anybody in the chat want to clarify what the intention with incremental static regeneration is?
Kind of feels like this might be one of those, like, it sounds cool, someone is doing it, and it's the new shiny thing, maybe. But
yeah, like
in reality,
I know
it doesn't
that,
have any.
I know that Next has this thing, but I couldn't work out if it's a Vercel specific feature or if it's something that works anywhere. I don't know. I'm waffling because I don't truly understand what it is. There is an issue open for it on the SvelteKit tracker though, and there's a bit of a conversation happening there. So if people like are invested in this feature, then I would go and search incremental static regeneration on the Kit tracker and find that issue.
I mean, none of us can even actually say it straight because you get your tongue gets stuck halfway through. So I mean, but yeah, exactly. So on the GitHub, let's take the discussion there for this and figure out what it is that people want and how we can get there.
Cool. Here's one that got a lot of upvotes. How do you handle a full-time job and building a framework, or how do you feel about it?
Well, I've been very fortunate over the last few months in that my day job and my hobby have overlapped a lot. So for those who don't know, I work at the New York Times in the graphics department, and I spent most of the last year working on our coronavirus tracking project. And towards the end of last year, we reached a point where our existing project just wasn't handling the workload. And we wanted to add county level pages for every county in the US, which is 3,000 plus counties, so that we could give people information about the risk levels in their local area. And like the way that it had been built up until that point, it just wasn't going to work at all. And given that we were using Svelte in the tracker a lot already, it made sense to me that we would use a Svelte-based static site generator. But it had to have like the flexibility to operate with our CMS and everything. And I figured like the easiest way to get flexibility is to like be able to be writing the thing as we're using it. And so for the last few months, we've been building the tracker using SvelteKit, and the things that we've learned from using it have gone directly back into the framework. And so I've actually been able to spend time, some of my time working on SvelteKit in order to get the thing that I do at work to function. And so that's been a nice little journey.
A dog fooding experience.
Yeah, extreme dog fooding.
That sounds nice. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, you also you really learn where the pain points are when like your coworkers are in Slack saying, "What does this error mean? Come on."
Yeah, speaking of errors, this is going to be a weird segue into accessibility, but
Make it work.
it's some kind of warning, maybe. Are we gonna? Is that something that you might work more on with SvelteKit in some way? I don't know if that's even possible. Maybe that's more of a Svelte question in general.
So it's certainly possible. Like once you have like a more predictable project structure, and like you have a better sense of like, what it would take to, you can reliably like build and serve the application and then navigate the application because you already have like this common foundation. Like we have the CLI and we have a predictable project structure. So in theory, you could do things like open a browser and start like programmatically navigating around and discovering areas of like the text and the background have too low contrast or something like that. These are things that you can't really do just by statically analyzing a component in isolation, which is how all of our accessibility checks work at the moment. It's not something that we're actively like working on at the moment, but I think like this is one of the things that kind of fall out of having this common foundation, is that you can start to solve problems at a more holistic level like that. At least that's certainly my hope.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Hey, just quick tangent. Somebody Discord user Lee Rob posted a pretty good link to the ISR stuff of smashing.
Oh, I mean, so that's Lee from the cell. I recognize the handle.
Yeah. So
really,
just FYI, you can look at that.
Cool.
Cool. So I've got a lot of projects in Sapper that are running with a lot of users, and I need to figure out how to migrate it safely over to SvelteKit. So what's the story there? Because I've heard some good things about the story. I haven't read too much into it.
So it will be a manual process. There's no sort of magical wizard that is going to automatically convert it.
I thought you were a wizard, Rich. Come on.
Well, so if you go to the website kit.svelte.dev/migrating or /migration, one or the other, there's a list of like the steps that you need to go through, and it's not an overwhelming list. The file system based routing is very largely the same. Your Webpack config, you can just delete that, get rid of it. You need to install some dependencies, remove some others, and rename a couple of files. But I think other than that, there's not going to be too much to do. All of your preloads become loads. That's changed. And if you have like a custom server, then you'll need to put that logic in your hooks.js file, or like middleware.js if we succumb to the demands of the crowd to rename it.
So that sounds quite exciting, because the changes are more and more, even though it's kind of a new code base, it's more and more kind of similar, smaller migration changes. Do you feel like you're zeroing in on the perfect way to build a web project, or do you think this is kind of like a local minima?
I mean, everything is a local maximum, and until it isn't, I guess. It's our best attempt to answer that question right now. Like, obviously, people are going to discover new techniques and new ideas, and in time, maybe we'll incorporate those, and it will involve some design changes. I mean, I can't imagine that in 2025 we're still going to be doing things exactly the same way that we are now. But yes, it does feel like we're sort of converging on a pretty good point. We've kept all of the things about Sapper that people like, I hope, but we've jettisoned the limitations. I'm feeling pretty good about how the design's shaping up.
Just the developer experience alone is just mind-bogglingly good. So feels just so right.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really nice to be able to start from the position of having unbundled dev server tools like Snowpack and Veep.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's very new and like we are taking a little bit of a leap of faith with these things,
right,
it feels like we're setting ourselves up for the future. Whereas like if we're starting a new thing and then like even if we were building it on top of VS Build, which is fantastic, and SvelteKit does use ES Build under the hood, like ultimately you're buying into something that is going to it's going to add more overhead as your app gets larger and larger and larger. But with these new tools, like there's no overhead. Like your app can get as big as you like, and your server is still going to start up instantly. And I'm really excited about that. Like it feels like we've collectively just had this moment of clarity, and we're moving on from the last 5 years, and it feels great to be able to just like discard all that baggage.
Yeah, what happens is you have like all these sort of slime mold kind of apps that like have grown into dimensional proportions that are huge. And like anyone who works on those level of apps knows the pain points that you have with like large builds or anything that's really huge. This solves all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really great.
it's slick.
Yeah. All right. So it's getting late. We've been here for 6 hours and almost 20 minutes. That's almost as long as last time. And we swore we wouldn't have it as long of an event as last time. I guess we.
Congratulations for people who tarry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have a discussion later about how you got through it. How did you survive this long? Did you have like gel pouches and protein bars and
Yeah.
Was it just
All right,
beer?
so the probably.
So there are still some more questions. So perhaps we can do that in the clubhouse kind of space.
Discounts.
Discount, whatever
After
it is.
party. Yeah.
The after party. Perhaps people could ask us questions later.
Yeah, so there's a Discord channel called Svelte Summit, which has got a funny different icon, and it's Discord's version of Clubhouse. So we're going to give it a go and see what happens.
What is it actually called?
I think it's called Discord Stages. I think it is. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool looking. So.
Discord Clubhouse. That works for me.
Yeah.
Sure, right, so I'm gonna remove you guys from the window here and just end the event. Thanks for coming on, Rich. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye, guys. Oof. All right. So we're done. We're finally done. No, I want more. If you want more, you should definitely head to the Discord and hop on the Discord stage channel. You can probably find it in there pretty easily. And so before we go, I'd like to again thank our sponsors, Fileline. Fileline's a tool for handling client workflow and document management. It's the work operating system for professionals. So check them out. And they're also hiring Svelte developers. Ooh. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat about that. And next up, we have Gitpod. And they remove all the friction from the developer experience. So you'll always be ready to code. And they make the software development more collaborative, joyful, and secure. They recently migrated their website from Sapper to SvelteKit as well. And that's open source. And in addition to that, Mike will be joining us on the Svelte Radio podcast in a couple of weeks to talk about the migration. So that might be something to look out for. And lastly, we have BuddyBase, which is a low-code tool that helps you build internal tools on your own infrastructure in minutes. And they're also hiring. I guess we are hiring because I work there. So yeah. The BuddyBase itself is open source. So I'm going to post a link to that as well. And right. Lastly, I want to thank all the speakers for making their talks. I'm sure it was a lot of work, and we hope to see you submit stuff for next time. And of course, all the organizers that have really helped me a lot. Last time I did a lot of the stuff myself, but this time around I've had so much help, and it's been great. So yeah, with that said, goodbye and take care.